Why am I doing this? Have I not learned my lesson yet? Little history. Back when I thought polls were a good idea, I'd usually have a theme. A certain game was announced as just going free to play recently, and since I had received just as many requests for other games similar to it, I decided to lump them together in what would be known as the Superhero MMO poll. While this game led in the poll for a good while, Paragon Studios hijacked the poll by posting it on the official City Heroes Facebook page. So when I complied with what was now the clear winner, it was received with understanding and open minds. Haha, no! So putting this game on the back burner a second time, I decided to go with the other game in the poll, because despite it having the least votes, it was something I had played before and had a few things I know I wanted to say about it. One of them being a highly misconstrued anecdote that nabbed me no less than 5 wall of text posts calling me unprofessional and misinformative. I can't win. So here I go again, time to clear out this superhero MMO poll once and for all. This is the MMO Grinder, and it's time... Hello?
Botaski is India, Papa.
Your dad did what now?
I said Botaski is... I figured anybody would know this stuff. It would be John. Listen, John, it's Tiger. I'm set up outside your front door. I've got a clear line of sight to your residence, and I got you covered this episode, so you're free and clear to go.
Rob, when you told me to call you when I was doing this episode, I didn't think you were going to go so... extreme.
John, I think we both know what's going to happen. You're doing a superhero MMO that has an established fan base for generations. I just figured I'd cut them off at the chase, and if anybody shows up at your front door, I'll give them a nice warm welcome.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at in the intro there, but don't you think it's a mite on the extreme side to be shooting people?
Dude, they're not even people, they're fanboys, and besides, it's just paint.
Do you have anything stronger?
Well, I do have monster balls, but that'd be kind of inhumane. I got this stuff on me called pepper balls. It's the same stuff the cops use in Mace.
That'll have to do. Alright, good luck out there.
Roger that, you're free and clear, I got you covered.
And it's time to look at DC Universe Online. Developed by Sony Online Entertainment and published by Sony, DC Universe Online, or DCUO for the acronym prone, is a 3D action MMO obviously based on the DC Comics universe. Available on both PC and PS3 despite it not being a cross-platform title, it was released in January of 2011 and was met with a shockingly fast free-to-play conversion in November of that same year. Despite receiving warm but not glowing reviews from the press, the game was met with an intense fervor that died out almost as soon as it arrived. This didn't exactly surprise me, to be honest. It'd be like hearing a popular and highly anticipated MMO with an interesting mechanic and sexy character artwork was being localized in the US, and then finding out it was being published by Nexon. Oh wait, that actually happened. Despite producing the WoW before WoW known as EverQuest, SOE doesn't really have the best track record of producing hits. For me, it got to the point that seeing SOE on an MMO is as detrimental as seeing LJN on an NES cartridge.
Bogey clear, you're good, CD1.
And so it begins. If set to default, the graphics come across as kinda muddy, which is odd considering this was designed for the PS3 in mind. However, I was able to set the graphics to max with little issue and the game looks much nicer. The character models look pretty doll-like though. It's halfway between City Heroes doll-like models and the more cartoony models of Champions Online. There's an overall shininess to the look that doesn't lend itself to the realistic. There's some odd graphic quirks in this game too, one being this odd X-ray effect when zoomed in close where parts of the model turn translucent and fade away while others stay solid and visible. When zoomed in close to my character Cian, her hair fades away, leaving her as a translucent bald mulleted woman with visible teeth floating in her head. Disturbing. It actually comes across more frightening than the Joker-inspired Demon Wing clown I made. I've also come across times where enemies get wedged into walls and floors, occasionally making them untargetable. With some instant areas requiring you to defeat all the enemies before you can advance, I can imagine this being kind of a detriment if an enemy required to defeat becomes invincible. While I've had this happen only a few times, it didn't keep me from moving on, but it's a possibility to consider. One final note, there aren't that many areas in this game, to start at least. I can't speak for later on, but you're basically spending this entire game hopping from Metropolis to Gotham and vice versa. Hope you like cities is all. The music in this game is pretty good, but suffers from that unable to appreciate in the game kind of issue. Too often the music doesn't play, or it's drowned out by the combat sounds and the voices. It's a great soundtrack, but you'll appreciate it a lot more if you're listening to it separate from the game itself. The most iconic thing from this game, though, is the voice work. If you're a child of the 90s and grew up with the Batman animated series, you're going to be very happy here, considering a lot of voice actors and actresses from the Batman and Superman animated series are in this. Most notably, Kevin Conroy as Batman and Mark Hamill as the Joker.
He and Harley are creating a deadly new version here at Amusement Mile. So if you want to stay healthy, you'll leave. Now.
Birdbrain Robin is inside my funhouse. Get in there and protect my formula. And... Harley too, of course. The password is Batman Stinks.
And for those of you who didn't know this for some reason, yes, that Mark Hamill. While the main characters are perfectly fine, it's the side characters and enemies where the voice work starts to wear thin. When fighting a type of enemy in a certain area, expect to hear one of 3 voice clips over and over and over. It gets seriously annoying. Voice volume affects both the enemies' voices and the scripted clips as well, so it's a bit of a coin toss. No pun intended. This game is available on Steam, which is how I've been playing it. Getting it through there is simple enough, but you'll still need to actually start the game in order to update it properly from its own launcher. Once you start the game, you can choose from 2 character slots only. Choose one and you'll have to pick from the PvE or PvP server. As standard for a PvP server, players from the opposite faction will be able to attack you, and as often as you end up seeing players from other factions, PvP might not be the best choice for your first character. One thing you'll notice is the game is quite fond of cutscenes. While most of them are done in the moving comic book style, there's a rather lengthy opening cutscene that really outlines the whole story of the game. Let's see if I can't describe this action a bit more, properly.
We open on an epic battle in the ruins of Metropolis between several well-known heroes and villains of the DC Universe. Black Adam pins down Green Lantern, destroying Green Lantern and the Flash with a massive explosion. Deathstroke uses Wonder Woman's lasso to capture and beat Batman until the Joker destroys both of them with a rocket launcher. Lex Luthor defeats Wonder Woman and uses her screams to call down Superman. Black Adam ambushes Superman, but dies as Superman fires his heat vision into Adam's eyes. As Superman rushes over to Wonder Woman's body, he finds her mouth has been filled with kryptonite and, weakened, falls to the ground, right before Lex stabs him from behind with a kryptonite spear, finishing off the Man of Steel once and for all. Lex's victory is short-lived as he looks above to see Brainiac's war fleet is descending upon the planet, with Lex defenseless to stop it. We cut back to the Watchtower as we find out that this is a story being told from a future version of Lex Luthor, who has come back to warn the heroes that if they are unable to work together, Brainiac will invade and humanity will be completely powerless to stop him. As a final parting gift, future Lex releases exobytes into the Earth's atmosphere. These exobytes are nanomachines that contain all the data of the future's fallen heroes and villains. The exobytes head to Earth and begin to create a whole new army of superheroes and villains to unite against Brainiac.
So with that out of the way, the hell?
John, don't answer that. That is not, I repeat, not Linkara.
You sure? Hat looks about the same.
I've got him scoped in right now. He's wearing a t-shirt that says, I, less than 3 Frank Miller.
Okay, you're right. Light him up.
Sending.
With that out of the way, let's talk about the character creator. If you're coming from COH or Champions Online, you might as well be playing World of Warcraft or Lotro when it comes to creating your character. The modification options are severely limited, locking you into a few hairstyles, body types, and costume pieces. You might be able to get something you'd like out of it, but don't expect the perfect pieces to complete your look. At least you're given free reign of the color palette. After that, you can choose from your power pools. One thing you might notice is there is no damage pool. This is because all the power pools are viable damage sets, but what you see is their secondary functions. Fire and Ice can take on a tanking form, for example. Pools like Gadgets have a secondary role called Controller, or amusingly called Trollers by the community, that can take full advantage of crowd control effects, or CC, to better handle large groups. There are also sets like Sorcery that allow for the ever-popular healer role. If you're completely devoid of creativity, or were just planning on making not Superman anyway, the game has you covered as the game's story pretty much allows for this possibility anyway. If you so desire, you can simply pick from a list of existing DC superheroes and get a nice budget version, costume and power set all ready to go. You can tweak the costume if you wish, but you're locked into your powers, travel powers, and weapons at the start. Speaking of travel powers, there's only 3 in this game: Flight, Super Speed, and Acrobatics. Flight is as basic as you can get. Super Speed is also pretty self-explanatory, save for the fact that you can jump very far with a running start, and even run up and alongside walls. Acrobatics is like a small mix of the two, as you can run quickly along the ground, can climb walls, and even glide along the air. Each power can be augmented to serve as an attack as well, like dive bombing with Flight, or you can boost their travel abilities, like granting a grappling hook to climb walls faster in Acrobatics. This can be done with the skill points that you get at level ups in the trees that I'll get to later. Controls in this game are a bit different. Moving the mouse steers the camera like an FPS or in Terra. Left-clicking uses your melee attack, and right-click uses a ranged attack, but this varies a bit by the weapon you're using. These attacks are not automatic, nor can you hold them down to auto-attack. You have to click every time you want to attack. I'll explain why later. You also have a small group of hotkey skills, listed 1 through 8, but only 6 attack skills can be assigned, while the 7th and 8th are reserved for specific items. You need to hotkey the skills, as the control scheme offers no way to click them. You can press shift to block attacks, press control to attract loot drops, press space to jump, or fly upward in the case of having flight, or press F to toggle between travel and regular mode. One other key to get used to pressing is the E key, which acts as the catch-all use key in order to collect and activate nodes or talk to NPCs. As you can imagine, this is a very tiring control scheme, and it gets tough to do for long periods of time if you're sticking with a mouse and keyboard. You can really tell that the game was designed for console play, as the odd key layout and the twitchiness of the hotkey hopping seems really off if you're going with a strict mouse and keyboard design. If you have a PC joypad, by all means, use that. But for me, I've got a new mouse that helped me take care of this whole thing. And they said 12 side buttons was excessive. The tutorial will talk you through some of the basics as you awaken in a Brainiac warship, being guided by Oracle if you're a hero, and the Calculator if you're a villain. Most of the tasks here consist of clearing out the room before moving on to the next event, taking out a few mini-bosses along the way, until you're tasked with taking down the ship from the inside and fighting along Superman or Lex Luthor. Once the boss is defeated, your iconic partner will inform you that they will take it from here. And here lies the biggest complaint about this game from fans of City of Heroes or Champions Online. You're not a hero. You're cleanup crew. You're an errand boy, a sidekick to the heroes and villains that are greater than you. Not to mention that the story outright paints you as a carbon copy clone of existing superheroes. You want to be a hero with your own vision of greatness? Tough. Go pick up Batman's dry cleaning. Yes, the majority of the game, especially in the beginning, has you following the orders of your mentor, with quests or missions that will be automatically updated in your tracker. However, keep an eye out as you travel around, either on your map or in the cities themselves, with massive beams of light, as these are usually supplemental missions that will be accompanied while working on your main one. Press J to reach your trackers and complete your missions that you've finished. No reporting back to NPCs unless it's part of the mission. There doesn't seem to be any limit to the amount of missions you can get, and the tracker even lets you sort the missions the way you want. So if you're the kind of completionist who clears out the lower level quests before moving on to the next highest, regardless of what level you currently are, you can sort them by level. It's not a bad idea in this game, really. You even gain missions for areas you're not currently in, meaning you'll be doing a lot of city hopping between Gotham and Metropolis. You'll notice that level gain isn't exactly lightning fast, and even a skilled player in the game can only reach level 10 in a matter of 4 or 5 hours. A lot of missions you'll obtain automatically might be several levels out of your range, forcing you to find other missions first. A fun type of side mission, as long as you can fight off these Superman 64 flashbacks, are the racing missions, where you have to utilize your travel powers to circumvent a series of rings in order to beat a time. You get some emblems unlocked by completing these with a platinum rank. The first few are insultingly easy, but they get painfully tricky later on. Weapon attacks are done with button press combos, all unlocked with skill points that you get with leveling up. These can be a bit confusing to understand as they're inputted by timing and tied in with the graphical animations. So when you see hold times 3, it means you need to hold the button, wait for that animation to play, release and hold it a second time to let that animation play, and then release and hold a third time to let the final animation play. It's gonna take some practice, but a lot of these skills can be just as powerful as your standard powers. Speaking of, your powers are also gained from skill trees in a separate pool of points. There are 3 to choose from, 2 based on your power pool you chose in the beginning, and the third from a massive pool of iconic power, like Superman's heat vision or Wonder Woman's lasso. Some of these powers use the supercharge meter, a third meter underneath the health and power meter that fills with enemy kills. It's a lot like the Deva point system in Ion, but far more useful. Supercharged powers are extremely powerful, but use a percentage of the meter depending on what they do. In addition, to reward you for having a full bar without using it, some of your skills and powers gain secondary powers or increase damage if the meter is full. I mentioned this earlier in character creation, but once you reach level 10 you get access to your secondary role. Depending on that role, it'll augment your existing powers and personal stats to better fit the role. For example, tanks get a boost to their defensive power, while controllers have the length of their stuns or traps increased. Each mode is represented by an icon: fire for your default damage roll, a shield for a tank, a spiral for the controller. Swap between your damage and secondary rolls with the T key. Reaching level 10 also allows you to start pouring skill points into different weapon systems from the one you chose at the beginning. When you start gaining more powers than you can equip, you can pick and choose which ones you want at the loadout screen, which is accessible from the skill screen, the K key by default. You'll also be able to choose the setup of your secondary role. The death penalty in this game isn't really a penalty. When you're defeated, you see a short countdown. If an ally reaches you in time, you can be revived, but if the countdown reaches 0, you're forced to teleport to a nearby rally point. This game uses a repair system on its gear, so you take a major hit to all your equipment when you're defeated. The inventory is pretty standard MMO stuff here. When you gain a new equipment piece, you simply equip it from your inventory screen, and the game will tell you the benefits and losses you'll gain from each new piece. An odd thing about this game is that by default, if you equip a new piece, you gain the look of that piece, and the only thing it'll follow is your chosen color palette. If you spend a lot of time perfecting your costume, you might get a bit annoyed to see that you're now wearing some technological chest plate. To avoid this, head to the Style tab to choose the looks you want, and click the Lock button to keep from doing this by default. You might want to log in and lock everything up before you start playing the tutorial to avoid this altogether. Looting was definitely designed with consoles in mind. When an enemy is defeated, it will drop several colored orbs. The orbs grant experience and power that will automatically pass to you, but if the enemy drops cash or loot, you'll have to walk over the icon or press Ctrl to attract them to you. White safes are equipment, glowing question marks are quest items, and yellow money signs are cash. Free players have a very limited amount of cash they can carry at once, $1,500. Once you reach that cap, the rest of your money gets tied up in escrow, and it remains inaccessible until you get withdrawal tickets in the cash shop. I will say I haven't had any need for more than $1,500. Cash drops a lot, and old gear sells for quite a bit. Repairs do get pricey, but they're not unmanageable. Premium accounts get to hold on to $2,000 at a time, and legendary subbed accounts get to keep everything. There are numerous points on the map that reward exploration, like the investigation points that offer a snippet of DC history or story of the game. You might also come across glowing orbs that grant exobits, smaller exobytes that can be crafted to better augment your gear, similar to a gem socket system of games like WoW or Diablo. Finally, you'll find kiosks set up around the map by Booster Gold. They'll give you an audio tour of various points in the city. Save these for the missions that they're tied to, as they offer nice rewards and experience for little to no effort. I didn't cover this in gameplay, even though there are a lot of missions that are single-player versions of this, but you'll be able to access instances anywhere in the game provided you have them unlocked. Press the Y key to access the On-Duty tab and browse through the available instances. Some are solo, like the Vault, a massive prize area which is entered with tickets you gain every week. And some will require 2, 4, 8 players to complete. Queuing for these will automatically match you with others who are looking to enter, and you can teleport there instantly once a proper match has been found. There are also PvP queues for structured PvP events, either with your player or the Legend system, which lets you play as actual DC characters, and their own sets of skills. These can be purchased in-game in the cash shop or even granted to you after completing some missions. Queuing for these is exactly like queuing for instances. Obviously, the two major factions in the game are the villains and heroes. On a PvE server, you need to flag yourself if you wish to fight opposing players. Oftentimes, I don't think these players got that memo, and I've seen plenty of players attempt to fight my characters despite their attacks being completely ineffectual. Another form of open PvP consists of the world events that happen on occasion in each city. You'll notice an on-screen prompt that an event is starting, and you'll need to talk to a certain NPC in order to participate. Chat in the game takes place mostly in the Shout channel, and it's aptly named as most of the people in there seem to be shouting at each other. More often than not, players are just arguing over something, or just arguing for the sake of arguing, but it doesn't get intrusive to the gameplay side of things. The gameplay doesn't seem to lend itself to outright fights between players. I don't believe that there's a kill-stealing mechanic or tagging mechanic, but at least I hope there isn't, because I've gotten credit for killing things I merely took a few swipes at. Node stealing is still a basic issue, though, as I've more often than not had to witness players swoop down and take the node I was after while I'm still dealing with its guards. With the almost Korean grinder amount of nodes and enemy kills that the later missions expect of you, it gets really frustrating really fast. Beyond all those issues, this does seem like there's decent people in the game. I got through a 4-player instance with only 3 people actively playing, and we didn't actually complain or yell at each other the entire time. It went along just fine, so the players are at least understanding. I guess I'll find out soon enough.
You're good to go. Keep grinding.
To talk about the cash op is to mention that this is a sub-hybrid. Like many former subscription games, DCUO isn't willing to let go of the subscription formula, the aforementioned cash restriction being a bit of proof of that. Free players are also locked out of chatting more than 6 times in a 30-second span, cannot trade items, cannot mail items, cannot post auctions, have only 2 character slots, and have a limited inventory of 28 slots. You can augment a lot of this with cash op purchases, like escrow tickets that allow you to withdraw funds in small amounts, or outright purchase more character and inventory slots, along with the standard items of costume pieces, or even some more legend characters for the legend PvP mode. Spending only $5 unlocks the next tier, Premium, which boosts the amount of cash you can carry by $500, increases your inventory slots to 42, doubles your bank slots, triples your character slots, and removes the trading restrictions on items. Not a bad deal overall. I'm sure there's something you can find for $5. Now, for unlimited access to everything, you can outright subscribe to the game for $15 a month. These legendary accounts, in addition to having 16 character slots, 48 bank slots, 63 inventory slots, and unlimited cash access, can purchase more of these items and have unlimited access to Prometheum lockboxes, which normally have to be opened with a cash shop key. Of course, if you're already looking for more content, you can purchase the game's various expansions as well, but you get unlimited access to current and future expansions if you're actively subscribed. If you like the game, the option should be a no-brainer to you, but feel free to browse around, as I didn't feel it was necessary to spend a dime on the game to enjoy it, as long as you're cool with the limits. Yeah, I was a mite worried about this one, but once I got into the game, I found it to be a lot of fun, but I can also see where these complaints lie. After all, if you played City of Heroes or Champions Online, you want to be the hero, not work for them. However, if you love the DC universe and don't mind taking orders from Superman, you might spend more time geeking out at all the locations and references scattered throughout the game. Here's my final rating. I'm not a comic book person, but I can imagine other people familiar with the DC universe in one way or another might really enjoy this game. There's tons of references and clues throughout the game that'll give you little fanboy moments here and there, and the presentation is overall fantastic. Fans of action combat like Terra of Invictus will greatly enjoy the third-person action gameplay, as it feels very involved and hard to just spam your way through. Of course, the voice work, especially with many voice actor veterans returning, is more than enough to get some people excited for the game, and it does not disappoint in that regard. If you can't stand being restricted, especially with character slots, consider dropping some cash on getting a few more, or at least getting the premium tier unlocked. Of course, if you want to keep experiencing new content, like in Lotro, you're gonna have to pay for it. Then again, the subscription perk is always there for those who plan on getting the most out of this game. Hope you like hand cramps. This game's combat does not lend itself well to the keyboard and mouse setup, and even with my specific MMO design mouse, the constant clicking got very painful very quickly. Definitely consider playing this with a gamepad if you have one. I find missions to get overly lengthy and repetitive, and killing 25 to 30 of something seems a bit much when each fight is a bit of a struggle if you're evenly matched. You might spend nearly an hour in a mission area, especially when it's crowded, so be prepared for it. Finally, as I mentioned before, you're not a hero as much as a sidekick to the greater characters. Even the game's stories admits you're a copy of something that already existed, so it's hard to feel you're building a story for your own character. Stick to the other superhero MMOs if this is something that bothers you. And with that, I have finally cleared my plate of these games and that poll. After the inevitable firestorm of this one dies down, it's nice to know I want to be delving back into this for a while. Everything clear out there, Rob?
Well, I got a couple opinions about DCUO myself, but I figured I'd save that for my show.
Alright, if it's clear, feel free to head on out. You're good.
Roger that, bugging out.
Next time, well, let's try something different. Oh, god damn it!